Welcome, ladies and gents. Disney announced a 2.4 million loss in subscribers of Disney Plus. They need to save $5 billion in cost cutting. They're firing 7,000 people and cutting $3 billion in content creation. Pretty bad day for Disney. And then we get this. Toy Story 5 announced. Frozen 3 announced. And Zootopia 2 announced. Yeah. This is them realising that all of the nonsense that they've been peddling of late has been a huge failure. It'll be very interesting to see what happens from this, though. And this is the real take-home, is that this is almost an admission, even though there's an omission there, if that makes sense. So, ladies and gents, we'll dive into this today. This actually comes off the back of a video I did late last night, about midnight my time, which was, again, covering the Disney Q1 call. So just all their earnings, basically. And yeah, although stock went up, I can't imagine it's going to stay there. There's a lot going on. I mean, this is an effort to keep stock high, for sure. Toy Story 5. There's an interesting element about this Toy Story 5 situation as well. But so we'll dive into this today. If you're new here, do hit subscribe, guys. Please do give the video a like and do comment as well. It does help. YouTube's been very strange. In fact, there's actually a 50% reduction in my videos just popping up around YouTube to people, which is really, really frustrating. As you can imagine, that has a massive knock-on effect. So interact with the video and hopefully you'll get recommended it. And actually, you know, notified if you're a subscriber. That's a big issue with YouTube at the moment. But of course, there was Disney's Q1 earnings call of the year 23. This is the first one under the new CEO, Bob Iger. And, you know, there was the Chapek job cuts that were going to happen. Well, they're happening anyway. So this savior, Lord and Savior, Bob Iger, is reaping what he initially sowed. And this is the situation. Everyone thought that Bob Chapek coming in was going to save everything. And you know what? There was a strong potential that he could have. But obviously he was dealing with a lot of the situation that Bob Iger had already established. A lot of these movies have been in the works for years. And Bob Chapek, obviously, you know, a bunch of these movies were released under Bob Chapek. And then obviously the shit hit the fan. And Bob Iger stepped in to save the day, even though he is the cause of the ruin. Now, it's interesting that obviously they're doing this 7,000 cutting element anyway. There was a question by Michael Nathanson of Moffat-Nathanson, and Iger discussed how the company is going to cut its costs when it comes to film and TV production, but also appeared to tacitly admit that the company has a quality program for much of its top brands and franchises. So he said the following. In addition, we're going to lean more into our franchises, our core franchises and brands. I talked about curation in general entertainment. We have to be better at curating the Disney and the Pixar and the Marvel and the Star Wars of it all. Basically, stop pumping out shite. Yeah, maybe. And of course, reduce costs on everything that we make. While we are extremely proud of what's on screen, it's gotten to a point where it's extraordinarily expensive. We want all the quality. We want the quality on the screen, but we have to look at what they cost us. I mean, that is hardly a surprise, is it? Like, let's get real here. And again, off the back end of that, they then announced this. Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, Zootopia 2. Now remember, ladies and gents, if that Lightyear was such a huge, raging success, why is Tim Allen coming back? Why are you making Toy Story 5? Maybe you should, you know, lean into the things which worked. The stuff which has worked for years. Not this nonsense that you've been peddling recently to a demographic that is not a consumer, that doesn't purchase, and is actually the smallest demographic out of the entirety of your viewing audience. You know, I guess we could call them progressives. But anyway, we had this, right? So Bob Iger announced the sequels to Toy Story, Frozen and Zootopia are officially in the works. Bearing in mind, this would have just been announced for this call. I would imagine that there's an element that these actually technically aren't in the works. This is coordinated, if that makes sense. Yes, some of them will get off the ground. I think Toy Story 5 will get off the ground. I think Frozen probably will get off the ground because that was a huge hit for Disney. Zootopia, I can't remember how much of a hit that was. We'll have more to share about these productions soon, Iger said, but this is a great example of how we're leaning into our unrivaled brands and franchises. So again, I sort of theorise here is that, you know, it's a coordinated element. So they obviously said to Tim Allen, look, mate, you should probably, can you announce this for me, please, as well? Yeah, cool, no worries. And we'll announce it as well, so you'll probably get some comments. So you're hired. Sorry that we binned you off for Lightyear, soz that Chris Evans took your place for no apparent reason. That's what I genuinely think that is the case. I genuinely think that's the case. And it's desperation here. It really is. So prior to this big announcement, again, prior to the big announcement that they're making content that people actually enjoyed, Iger shared some not so great news for Disney staff. None of these people will be the higher-ups, the ones which actually have caused this to happen, by the way, as the company is set to let go of 7,000 employees, it's roughly 3% of its workforce, in an effort to cut $5.5 billion in overall costs. Huge. As they say, we'll be reducing our workforce by approximately 7,000 jobs. While this is necessary to address the challenges we're facing today, I do not make this decision lightly. This is exactly the stuff that Chapek was going to be doing, that he got lambasted for. I have enormous respect and appreciation for the talent and dedication of our employees worldwide, and I'm mindful of the personal impact of these changes. On the content side, we expect to deliver approximately $3 billion in savings over the next few years, including sports. Well, how's he going to do that? Well, they're going to do restructuring of the company. Alan Bergman and Dana Walden are going to be co-chairman of Disney Entertainment. So Alan Bergman, Dana Waldman will be co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, which will include the company's full portfolio of entertainment, media and content businesses globally, including streaming. Jimmy Pitaro will continue to serve as chairman of ESPN, which will include linear ESPN networks, ESPN Plus, and our international sports channels. I believe they just lost out on a huge deal in India as well, which is where a fair portion of that 2.4 million subscriber loss came from. And Josh D'Amaro will continue to be chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences and Products, which will include our theme parks, resorts, destinations and cruise lines, as well as Disney consumer products, games and publishing businesses. So they genuinely are up shit's creek. And this is all whilst you have a Nelson Peltz, Bob Iger proxy war going on within Disney for a seat at the board. Nelson Peltz is for all intents and purposes, a pro-Trump individual, but he's also just pro-money, right? And he's launched this Bring Back the Magic campaign. It's basically a pitch that he's pitching to the board to say, hey, look, you're losing money. You're not making money properly here. Bearing in mind, a lot of their income recently has solely come from the fact that their parks are up, which is not good. I mean, that's why they lost so much money, because of COVID, but how they've only gained it back now is because their parks are open, which is a huge issue when they're pouring money into stuff which really isn't recouping the cost. You know, you can't just keep pouring money into Disney Plus, losing subscribers and not gaining anything off the back end of it. And I saw an interesting comment from Robert Meyer Burnett, a friend of the channel, respect the guy, but he tweeted out that their business model is about loyal subscriber base, not growth, which to me is counterintuitive from a business perspective. It doesn't make any sense to me personally. I'd love to pick his brains and chit chat about that, because it doesn't make any sense. If that is the case, if that's all they're trying to do, well, then they really do have to cut costs and just bring everything right down. You know, keep the audience that they've got, but then only pour the money in which that audience brings in. You know, so much so you can actually balance the books correctly. So this is interesting. It screams desperation to me. And again, you know, it's an admission of guilt, even though they're not actually admitting it. But bringing Tim Allen back, you know, as he tweets, "See you soon, Woody. You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity." And off we go to a number 5, to infinity and beyond. I mean, this is an admission that Lightyear was a huge failure. A huge failure. because you have to bring them back. And by the way, you know, I'd give me a Toy Story 5, sure. Like, I'll be happy with that. Why? Because it worked. That was a good franchise. It's funny. Those things worked. There's nothing wrong with them. But modern day sensibilities of Disney, yeah, they'll probably ruin it. Of course they will. Let's be honest.